Hello there. Good morning. Well, it's morning here in the valleys of South Wales and Britain. It's nearly 10 o'clock. I've been busy sketching and drawing for a couple of hours. I'll come to that at the end because it's Saturday. It's the 25th of September. We're nearly at the end of September. And there'll be 26, 27, 28, 29, 5 more days left of Sketchtember. And then we'll be into Inktober and another monthly challenge, which I need to fit work around as well. But nevertheless, it will get done. So as it's Saturday, it's my sketchbook flip through, Saturday sketchbook. Just going over the work I've done this week, some of which you may have seen, some of which you may not have seen, and bits and bobs. You know, there's always bits and bobs I haven't shown on social media as such. So I think this is where I finished last week, more or less. I haven't done anything with this drawing. It's just sitting in my sketchbook to decide what I'm going to do. And again, after a week, I actually quite like this, though at the time I was beginning to wonder what on earth was I doing. But the lesson for us all there is that sometimes we have to put artwork or creative pursuits to one side and then come back to them with fresh eyes and a fresh mind, and then can see things that we may need to do. I'm not entirely sure whether I want something growing out here. I don't know, but I think I'll leave it as it is. Now then, I think this is where I was last Saturday, possibly, as well, where I did a whole page of plants in pots, simply because I could. Drawn in pen, colour added with, this was Ecoline, and some glitter and sparkle and shine with various gel pens. Last week I thought, ugh, to this one, but actually as I look at it this week, it's not that bad really. But it's an interesting page. I really enjoyed doing that. So much so, on Sunday I think it was, I did pages of butterflies. This one's meant to go this way. This was the start, where I just drew lots of butterflies from imagination more than anything else, drawing on my wealth of, visual memory of shapes of bodies and such like. Just really simple, just pen outlines and then adding colour and texture with, again, various gel pens. This one up here was a bit, the brown was a bit of a disappointment, but I've added gold dots to it and it actually brings it out quite nicely. These were done with Ecoline pens. This one was Arteza Everblend markers, and they bled dreadfully on this paper. So lesson learnt, which is why I did this one, was marker paper. I think it's Arteza. It's got the feeling of being that. It may have been some other. It could have been, because I've got so many different brands, but it's marker paper. And various marker pens, the Artezas and Chameleon pens here, where you've got a very pale fade. That's more likely to be Chameleons. But here the same, though I could be wrong. Can't remember, it's a week ago, I've slept since then. But I haven't finished colouring it in, and chances are I never will. Colouring in isn't my favourite occupation, to be honest with you, although I know it brings life to these images. Then this was a page I did, and this one again I really enjoyed. Just a page full of mushrooms, again from imagination and memory and observational memories and so on of various different mushrooms. I think I coloured all of these with I coloured them all with the Ecoline brush pens and water, sometimes on a palette, other times putting the ink directly there and then blending it out. But the highlights really are what helped to bring these to life as well. All the little dots of the souffle pens, and I've got a little smattering of gold sparkles down the bottom as well, because you've got to have a bit of gold every now and again. But that was fun to do. I love having coloured backgrounds to work on, but the problem with having Distress ink coloured backgrounds is the ink tends to go into the colours, which means the colours look less bright than they would normally. So it does look a bit dirty and grungy, but it's a sketchbook page, it doesn't matter. Then that was day 20, so whenever the 20th was, Monday. I've had a few strange days. My days are always strange, but they're getting stranger. And this was 2 days sketching. I think I had work to do. I don't really know. I may have been just exhausted. I know Wednesday I was, from a lack of sleep and early ups for deliveries and things. But this page is an interesting one in that it's almost like little pictures or little pieces of jewellery, which started off quite, you know, square and rectangular with sections really split up, with different patterns in, to things that are much more organic. And some of them look like strange beetles, bugs, or even faces. And I just let my pen draw on the page without any thought particularly to what I was doing. I just know what shapes I like. These would work really nicely as part of dangle designs, which I haven't done any dangle designs for a long time. But that was 2 days, so half a page over 2 days. And then, oh, I know, Wednesday and Thursday, it's Template Thursday work. So Wednesday, I spent time drawing a template and starting to add colour before I crashed and burned. And then Thursday, I coloured a template digitally, coloured a version of the template digitally, and then uploaded it. And talking of that template, oh, here, this is the original, which I started colouring in marker pen. I find marker pens such a potch to use on big images, but I'd also done a small drawing. This is Ohuhu marker paper, which is thicker, weightier than my usual marker paper, which makes it really nice to work on. And I thought, let me draw some mushrooms with crystals and some foliage and some stars and sparkles, and colour them with this was Arteza Everblends, and that I really enjoyed. I prefer to colour huge images digitally and smaller ones traditionally, and I'm finding that an interesting thing. I think it's because I find traditional media such a potch, and marker pens, especially the chameleons, are perhaps an exception in some way, because you can create gradients and fades quite easily because they're designed to blend colour from a blending chamber, or blend colourless ink from a blending chamber into the tip of the pen. And the trick there is just allowing enough time for just enough of the colour you want to fade from one to the other in. But I didn't explain that very well. But markers usually need 2, 3, 4, 5 colours of similar shades to get a really nice smooth blend. And I have all these pens around, and it can be quite difficult to know which colour is which, because if I'm using Artezas, you can't easily see the colour on the lid. With Copics, there's a very clear, the colour of the lid is very clear, and so you put the pen down, you know which one you want next. The Artezas not quite so much, and the chameleons, they work in a different way, but the colour is actually on the barrel. It's sort of like the name, I think, is printed in colour, so it's easy to pick it up. So that's one thing I find that makes working with markers a bit potchier. But this one I'm really happy with, in a strange kind of way. It's small, it's cute, and it actually was the influence for this one. You can see mushrooms here. So I took this and used this as the basis. I sat them behind some shells and foliage, so they weren't just sat there in space, as it were. They were growing out of the ground. But I had so much fun drawing this one. I used a Tombow Fudenosuke pen, which has got a flexible nib, so that I could get different thicknesses of lines. And with the mushrooms and the crystals, I added, in particular, I added hatching in places where there's shadow. On the ones where there was space, like these smaller ones here, I wasn't going to do that, or here, other than the gills underneath. And in other places I didn't, but I had a lot of fun doing that because that's what I enjoy doing. I'm going back to the mushrooms while I've got all the loose bits of paper. This is another one that I did, and I liked it in black on the coloured background. This is a piece of mixed media paper coloured with distress inks, but I wanted to bring some colour out in it and see what colour would happen, and it ends up looking a bit like stained glass or a mosaic, and that was fun to do. I'm not going to finish it. It was just one of those things I thought, let's see how this goes. But this is the way I used to draw many years ago, was by having quite thick black lines and definitions so that work did look very stained glass. And it was nice to revisit and to go back and to go, oh, I can do this. Oh, look how this has come along, because it's same but different. So that was an interesting experience. This was yesterday's Sketchtember page, moving along. And I just drew patterns, some from observation. Like this is I had a photograph. I did not go and cut my garlic bulb in half. I've only got one garlic bulb in the house at the moment, and I wasn't going to cut it in half and put it to waste. So I found just a photograph, it drew my attention. So drawing that in a very simple stylized way would make a lovely abstract pattern. This is mushroom fungi, saddle, something like that. Oh, it's not oysters, saddle, and they're lovely. The colours in them, absolutely beautiful. Bark of a tree, I think rainbow eucalyptus it was, and I've added colour here. And this time, colour on this page is added with the Carbothello chalk pastels and paper tortillons. And what's really interesting that I've noticed here, I think it's because the texture pattern, the stenciled pattern I put on the background was a fair bit darker than the background itself, and those darker colours are showing through and adding. You can see the pattern through the colour. I think you can make it out on the screen. I'm just checking. Again, I haven't finished adding colour. I just wanted to see what would happen. These, don't know where they came from, but they remind me of archaeological drawings of sites, archaeological site drawings, where these lines show height, sort of like a slope or a gradient in some way. And they've always fascinated me, and I've often thought about using them in art, and perhaps I will now. But other things I think have drawn on from perhaps some Zentangle type things here and here, and just starting from observation and moving to more imagination, or things that are just very stylized, very simplified from what that observation is. And then today, as it's Sketchbook Saturday, this is my page today. And this page is a very lovely orange colour. It's autumnal. It's got those warm, fiery tones that we associate with the new season that we're in. Certainly here I'm in the Northern Hemisphere. I am Northern Hemisphere centric, because this is the world around me. But it's time for fruits and berries and nuts and seeds and leaves changing colour and mushrooms and all kinds of things. There's a ginkgo leaf. That, I shared a photograph on my Facebook page, not one I took, but of a really old ginkgo tree somewhere in the world. And when it drops its leaves in the autumn, they're all this golden yellow. And the whole area, not just the tree is golden yellow, but the whole ground around it is turned golden yellow with these beautiful, beautiful trees. I think the ginkgo is one of the oldest species of trees that still exist on the planet. It goes way, 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 way back, millions of years in geologic and botanical time, evolutionary time. So, but the shape of the ginkgo leaf is something I've always loved. And I know it's very much beloved of the Art Nouveau artists and creators as well. Why? I don't know. It's just such a pleasing shape. How do we define whether we like something or not? Sometimes you can just say, I like it. I like the shape. I like the colour. It just makes me happy when I see them. I used to go once a week for EMDR therapy in a town called Neath in South Wales, and not far from where I went there was a little park called Victoria Park, and it was in my last autumn of visiting there. I've been going there for a couple of years, and I've been seeing the same therapist for several years, but she'd moved offices to Neath, and it was only that last autumn that I actually saw there was a ginkgo tree there. I hadn't noticed it before, but I must have just walked through the park at just the right time when its leaves were falling and they hadn't been cleared up, and I saw them on the ground, and it was absolutely wonderful. Was it the last autumn or the last but one autumn? And so every time I walked through the park, I'd look at the ginkgo tree there, and I'd smile no matter what time of year. I knew which one it was. I could see the leaves, and I'd always have a good look and listen to the birds sat there. So, quick story. So I actually encountered a ginkgo. I know where there is a ginkgo tree, and when I'm up to travelling and getting out and about again, when I feel more secure in the strange world we live in, then I'll visit there. And especially once all the panic buying of petrol has stopped and you can actually get petrol again. Just don't ask what's going on in the UK. It's absolutely bonkers. How to create a crisis is tell people there's a crisis, because there wasn't one before. Self-perpetuate. Anyway, so lots of different things here. I've got some blueberries, gooseberries. These could come from maple or sycamore. I haven't got any ash keys on here actually. Cherry. Very mixing colours is not easy for me, and my tin of Carbothellos hasn't got a cherry red in it per se, but I think you get the idea, and it does look almost spherical. The white really doesn't show up, but I can get over that using a gel pen if I wanted to, in the same way the highlights on these acorns over here. Rose hips, other berries, some chestnuts there, and a horse chestnut here. Sweet chestnut, horse chestnut. Those you eat, those you don't. Oh yes, a mushroom had to sneak in, and various kinds of leaves. Some of or physalis, Chinese lanterns, physalis. One of my foods of the devil, as I call them. You can eat the berries inside, and they're just horrible. Oh, people love them, and they look very. When they're presented in their casings like this, that lovely bright orange colour and the orange colour of the berry, and they're on your plate. Oh, very pretty decoration, but there ain't no way I'm eating them. So I have some very strong views about food. It's true. I'm very fussy. Vegetarian and very fussy with it. To a degree. I know what I like and I know what I don't, and physalis is on my list of things I don't, along with grapefruit, avocado. Yeah, avocado, kale. Why would anybody want to eat kale? But there we are. And most probably a couple of other things as well I really dislike, apart from meats and fish and shellfish, because I don't eat that. So there we are, me wittering on. There's a very quick look through this week's art. I've had a look to see if there was any more, and there doesn't seem to be this week. But I guess there's a lot on each page and a lot done. I did spend a lot of yesterday, working on a commission that's been sat with me for quite a while. But yesterday was the day to do it. I think everything had just come into my head, and I'm just waiting for some feedback before I ink it in and sort out the final things. But my mind's still ticking over those. So I am now going to say thank you for watching. Thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed a look through the art I've done in a week. I'm not quite sure what my favourite page is, possibly this one. The mushrooms or the potted plants, perhaps. But then they've all got charm to them. I don't know. I think my least favourite are the butterflies, oddly. But take care of yourselves. Take time to be creative every day, and find time in every day to find wonder and awe in the world around you. Bye-bye for now. Bye-bye.